Mark? Yeah, behind you. Are we live?
Okay, we all live?
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Switch feet. Switch feet. Switch feet. Switch feet.
One, two. Oh, yeah.
Switch.
If we hear that sound again, we should show.
Switch, there's a speaker right behind you, so.
All right. TJ, what's poppin'? Get somebody get TJ a seat. TJ, Mr. Nike. All right. Sponsored by Nike. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming through. I go by the name of Switchbeat, Adrian Bernard, aka Photo Swaggins, always looking crispy with the logos matching. Mr. Violation, you know. And we got a really dope presentation today with some really great guests, some dope research. So I'm gonna read off about a little bit about Unity, get the introduction going, and then we're gonna get into this. Is that okay? Is that cool?
You got to play that on Switch?
Y'all can't hear me?
We're recording, so they can't hear you online. Yeah. So just don't stand directly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Live stream, what's poppin'? Let's get it. All right, so to give some context, this is Unity Charity. We help young people develop resilience through the avenues of hip hop, all avenues of hip hop. We have a couple of QR codes here. Love the QR codes that our team, made happen. So if you ever want to scan those, talk to the team, get some more information about Unity and what we're all about, don't hesitate to do so. Okay, so what to expect tonight? All right, so Canada recently celebrated a gold medal Olympic breakdancing. I was there virtually. All right, but despite this milestone, breaking remains one of the most underfunded and undersupported art forms in the country. To address these challenges, Unity Charity, Breaking Canada, in partnership with Flourish Wellbeing Sass, came together on the 25th of November, 2024, to unveil a new research report. This report sheds light on the challenges and barriers within the Canadian breaking sector, such as gaps in funding, community support, geography, and issues related to the diversity and inclusion. The panel discussed the findings and explored steps for building a more inclusive and supportive environment for Canada's breaking community to thrive, okay? So we want to take a second to thank our supporters, Breaking Canada, Flourish Wellbeing Sass, TD, Canadian Council of the Arts, Canadian Council of the Arts, and everyone that has contributed to this breaking research. Please make some noise for everyone. Like I mentioned earlier, we got the QR codes, so make sure you scan those, because a lot of work was put into that. And if they don't get scanned, they'll feel neglected, all right? And I'm going to introduce the researcher, the big boss, the HNIC. We got Dr. Chachi Annabeth. Everybody make some noise for Dr. AKA Word Mama. Okay. She's a spoken word poet, former B-girl, qualitative researcher, well-being environment subject matter expert, and the founder and managing director of Flourish Wellbeing Sass. Make some noise, man. So I'm gonna send it over because she got plenty to say, and we can't wait to hear it. Hopefully that mic don't do what it did before.
I hope not. All right, can y'all hear me? Am I good on the Zoom and whatnot? All right. Sweet. Thanks everybody for coming out. I have to say I am so excited to be here sharing this work with you. It's been a couple of years in the making. We've conducted this massive study, qualitative research study with breakers across Canada. Pretty involved process. We can talk about that in the question period if y'all are interested. And at this point, I'm gonna start by sharing the narrative that we built through 3 waves of analysis in our research findings. All right. So in this work, we spoke with 20 leaders in Canadian breaking community and told all of them incredible stories of their exposure to breaking, coming into it in the early days of breaking, in the early years of their lives. And, you know, in this, they're inspired by the flow, music, movement, athleticism. Breaking has been a transformative experience for all of the participants in our research study. At the same time, everybody described this sense of breaking providing a sense of community and self-expression in times of challenge. And as you'll see here, we've got quotes that are coming from the research study going along with what I'm describing here. We had about just under 900 pages of interview transcripts to work with in our data here. So in our work, there was this clear sense across the interviews that breaking has undergone a significant transition from having been, in its early days, this underground, crew-based community activity, and has now transitioned to something that is significantly more individual, points and prize money focused, a little deracinated and technical. And there's a little bit of concern articulated by our participants in the study around this. Participants really outlined how coming up with a crew offered a variety of benefits, including community, emotional support, and also a style and training group, right? This is particularly significant because the participants in the study, every single one of them was somebody who has been responsible for establishing and leading breaking organizations, creating opportunities for youth, promoting the art form, and representing Canada around the world in international breaking competitions. Overall, these stories highlight the passion, dedication, and growth that most of y'all in this room are familiar with that breaking has brought into the lives of all of us who have and or do continue to participate in this. Our participant accounts of developing as a breaker in the early years of the evolution of breaking all really focused on coming up hip hop, breaking, you know, finding like eking out spaces to practice at the margins, hallways, you know, the cardboard, the linoleum, all of these things, finding spots in parking lots, etc. And in these narratives, we have, you know, a lot of the old school breakers talking about, you know, trying to find that VHS tape of competitions. You could break down the move and figure it out, and then how you would really take that move, make it your own, and the collaborative work that was involved in those early days. And there's a clear nostalgia across all the participants' interviews of this sort of like grit and this relational and almost even life-saving nature, which I think some folks in this room might have experience with. I can certainly relate to. So, you know, importantly, coming up with a crew, coming up in the early days of hip hop, for sure people would be exposed to and, you know, usually have represented in their crews all, I would say 5 elements. Can I get a show of hands? Who goes for 5 elements rather than 4? Hip hop, 5 elements? Ooh. All right, so the contested 5th would be beatboxing, right? Then we got turntablism, breaking, MCA, and graph. So not so many y'all including that 5th element. All right, good to know, good to know. Check that out. One of the things with this nostalgia for previous eras, it's accompanied by a lot of uncertainty and concern, and this was echoed across about 80% of the interviews, where this rise of individualist orientation is really fostered by, you know, being able to just YouTube instruction videos, and it's stripped of the historical and cultural context, and then reinforced by the points and prize money. So the importance of community support to ensure ongoing growth in breaking was conveyed by all interviewees, and in particular interviewees in the East outlined how you know, these dynamics present challenges, whereas interviewees in the West Coast described more of a supportive environment. So we started to see, you know, a bit of like regional differentiation coming here. At the same time, travel was identified as a key element for all breakers in their breaking journey, right? This is the opportunity to experience other breaking cultures, to see what's happening in other spaces, but also the space to like really identify what is unique within your own breaking community, what is happening in other communities, and explore that kind of those segments. What was notable and not surprising, I'm sure, to everyone here is that these opportunities for travel were very consistently paid for out of pocket, and there were extremely few exceptions for this. And this continues to be the case even for elite level breakers who are representing Canada on the world stage. And this is the kind of thing that we really want to be sure to highlight as we're moving forward, because the point of this research is to understand what we have and where we want to fortify, right? And this ability to access funding for the required travel is really, really essential here. Another thing that was really emphasized was the importance of community projects. This is, breaking in community centers, universities, etc., as a recurring theme. And, we want to make sure at this point, we've got hip hop at 50 years, we've got this representation to be in a position to shift the narrative here. We also heard a lot about how being a youth breaker and a young breaker is really viable, and then there comes a real turning point as people start to have adult financial responsibilities. And the people who continue to break notice that most of their peers start falling off. The people who are breaking are facing other challenges here. So, while we were not collecting financial data in this particular project, it was really, really clear across the board that the dedication to breaking as one gets older has come at a cost of financial security. And so it shows the commitment of the community, but also the need within the community here. So yeah, as we all know, right, breaking evolved as a crew-based culture through battles and competitions, which, as the evolution was happening in the early days, was something that, built up a network of event circuits and community programs that were, navigated whether through individual contributions, corporate sponsorships, or government grants. At the same time, about 40% of the participants talked about potentially there being an area for growth within breaking where the lack of related merch undermines the ability to gather up corporate sponsors, and so finding a way to access something along the lines of several participants independently raised skateboarding as a space where there's similar cultural things, but the higher level of merch has facilitated increased corporate sponsorship and really supports the community in that way. That being said, participants also described tensions in the scene as a limiting factor, right? So beefs that extend beyond the cipher, gatekeeping. Some people talked about the culture being unwelcoming. There was, several people raised this tendency to be resentful or to reject leadership or support from those who are perceived as outsiders, and a reluctance to invite outsiders to events. And so, if we're looking at growing, I started saying through the research project, each one teach two. And extending beyond people who aren't necessarily going to hit the floor or necessarily going to break, right? I haven't been breaking for the last 18 years or so. I did at one point. I've just been going through cancer treatment. I'm not going to be breaking, but I'm going to be here in the community, contributing in the ways that I'm able. And so figuring out how to kind of open up those spaces.
Yes.
Thank you. So many of the interviewees identified this element of underground authenticity as something that can sometimes be a culturally limiting factor. And a lot of people suggested something along the lines of coming together for a healing circle, knowledge sharing, collective strategizing for growth, kind of working together, getting together in rooms like this with people who are engaged, and really thinking about, how can we access our strengths to address our areas for growth. At the same time, every single interview had a whole bunch of references on confusion. People described being confused in a whole bunch of areas, but mostly these centered around, the first was how to access funding, particularly in terms of making breaking a sustainable career. The second was how to stay true to breaking's hip hop roots in terms of community support, away from corporate interests that might be exploitative, but without rejecting the possibility of sponsorship, which is a very tricky balance to achieve. And then the third is how to build unified networks and systems across the country with diverse local breaking communities. This is important for so many reasons, but one of them is that a lot of people experience a lot of mental health benefits from breaking. We know a lot of this is explored in Unity. You know, people talk about breaking as a source of healing, improved mental health, etc. And you know, they describe this both for themselves and for those that they work with in the programs and centers that they've organized and designed. This is important, and at the same time, we want to make sure to balance this. I heard a lot of people describing situations where they were running programs where there was an expectation that they could act essentially as social workers without related training. So we want to find ways when we're doing this kind of community development work where if there is a lot of exposure to these kinds of things, we make sure that the staff present have the support and the training so that they can support their participants and we can really access these benefits. On balance, interviewees' really experiences with breaking are about this, you know, sense of community, self-expression, personal development, and improved health. Another one of our challenges is the gender imbalance. We don't have any stats on what the proportion of B-girls to B-boys is. We don't have any actual formal stats. The estimates by participants coalesced around about 20%, and we certainly see in some of the larger competitions that, you know, when we're going for relative equality, often it's about a third of B-girls to B-boys, 2/3 B-boys. So we see that as an ongoing and persistent problem. And this was something that was actually raised by both male and female interviewees, of course. Now, we do have a lot of structural things that are starting to happen to try to improve this. You know, we see Rise of the B-Girl in Calgary a couple of years ago. We got the Get Down Sisters coming together. You know, there are movements that are happening to try to address this, and you know, we're starting to see shifts. And yet, at the same time, among the interviewees, half of them were very concerned about gender dynamics, and all of the folks who were concerned, not only had they experienced or witnessed gender-based bias, transgressions, etc., there were several accounts where folks had observed or had reported to them actual cases of abuse where the victims were not supported because if the culprit was somebody who was prominent within the community. So there's some really in-depth things here that we want to make sure to explore and address with trained professionals and in the community here. Moving on, sorry, we have so much data. I feel like I'm a talking head here a little bit. So moving on to regions in Canada. The regional sentiments that were expressed by interviewees really echoed the dominant sentiments of regions in Canada. So we would see things like, you know, people describing the scene in Toronto as being comparatively hard and exclusive and, you know, tougher than some of the other spaces, and even some of that translating stylistically. French-speaking communities tending to keep to themselves away from English Canada. The Vancouver offers a nurturing and more laid-back kind of space, and this echoes the general sentiments that we have about these regions. So none of it is that surprising. What is noteworthy is that, you know, well, obviously battle is like a core element of breaking as a culture. Vancouver, that is recognized as being more supportive, is also producing a disproportionately high number of elite breakers relative to their population size. So there might be lessons in that environment. Geography and funding were raised as significant barriers in the community, and they're really, really interrelated. This is because our low population to geographic size ratio, is so extreme. And additionally, you know, a lot of people talked about how it's so expensive to get to different cities in Canada. It's actually cheaper to get to larger cities in the States that have larger breaking communities, and so for less money, less time, it's possible to be in a richer environment, and so we really need extra support in Canada to develop cross-country cohesion. Yeah. So funding, of course, continues to be a challenge. Nobody's surprised about that. what is really, quite frankly, still surprising is that, even at the elite level, there are still folks citing the challenges of accessing space to practice and train, that travel to others can be other cities can be prohibitive. That it still requires a wide range of tactics to pull things together to show up for, let's say, a panel. And we do it and we pull together and we make it happen, but what we want to see is more funding available for this kind of stuff. The difficulty remaining within the community that I've already mentioned, and I think, really, really comprehensively, this desire to foster growth in the community. According to our interviewees, we've got 3 main sources of funding: grants and program funding, usually for youth and community development projects, events, studio work, prize money, and then the third being corporate sponsorship. And most people who stay in Breaking for any period of time are interacting with all 3 of these things over the course of their trajectory, right? So, one of the things that's really significant is a lot of these grants and program funding opportunities are the types of things that were referred to by our interviewees as the most successful things within the breaking community. So when we're looking at streams of funding, how we want to amplify, this is a noteworthy factor. Today, those that carry on into adulthood and breaking, pull it together with a blend of these things, but all of the interviewees describe this as a relatively precarious lifestyle unless it's supported with work outside of breaking. The most significant corporate sponsor, as we know, is Red Bull, right? Red Bull and BC1 since 2004. And there's a lot of appreciation and gratitude expressed across the board by the interviewees. And specifically amongst those that have worked with Red Bull, people speak really highly of the guy at Red Bull. It's like his genuine commitment to the culture and art form, listen first, community-centered approach. That being said, those that haven't worked with Red Bull, offer a little bit of appreciation for the role that it's played in advancing breaking. And also there's some concern around how dependent the culture has become on a corporate sponsor that sells an energy drink. And this is particularly true when thinking about some of the health and well-being impacts in some marginal communities, and there's some tensions here that were outlined at length in a number of the interviews. What is interesting to me is, there's some of these nuances were highlighted. Rebel BC1 is a one-on-one tournament style that has been credited with keeping the breaking advancing, and there's a little thread here with the shift into the individualism within breaking, and so thinking about, again, how we balance where the funding comes from and what the foundation is in the community that we're looking for. It's a little tricky spot. There is a hope articulated among the interviewees that breaking arriving on the Olympic stage has given us this opportunity to grow a larger audience and access sources to secure long-term funding. At the same time, there's a bit of a tricky spot around, folks noting that World Dance Sport Federation neither gets nor cares about breaking, and this, contributes further to the erosion. It's concerned that it could contribute further to the erosion of culture and loss of community. Basically, the concern is, if the rise in attention that we have from the Olympics contributes exclusively to funding individual rising stars, then we risk actually replicating some of the inequalities that hip hop culture seeks to even out. So we want to support the elite breakers without letting that be individual tendrils that aren't coming up in a holistic and integrated ecosystem. So, what is the actual hope? The actual hope is that this, attention that we're getting now with the Olympics will lead to an era of funding that fosters, more full development as a breaker. We're talking about community-led, widely available community-led programs for children and youth, opportunities for youth to take on leadership roles, organizational development sites for breakers transitioning into their adult lives to cultivate skills that will foster economic development and self-sufficiency within the community. Some collective opportunities for groups that are already active in the sector, and effective and meaningful support for elite breakers on the international scene. What is noteworthy is that despite a lack of systematic and structural supports, which we talked about at length, practice sites, clearly articulated developmental trajectory, and secure funding, Canadian breakers consistently still make their mark in international breaking competitions. Canada has a reputation as a hotbed, right? Like, for unique, creative breakers. Like, everybody gets So we've got breaking here in Canada as old as hip hop itself, and this tremendous community that without much support, anything really, really coherently threaded together has stood up. And so, this is a call for funders to come through for us to pull this together and build up stronger. And that's about all. Let's head into our questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gatchie. Thank you, doctor. All right, I'm going to introduce the panelists. To my right, oh wait, you're right. We got Sir Blur. Everybody makes some noise for Sir Blur. aka Jeff Blaze from Ajax, Ontario. He's blessed to be able to blend his triad of passions in community building, art, and sport as an executive director of UBL, high performance director, CDS, breaking sports. The engineer, and he's an engineer. Dang! And he's a fantastic father. He's a great father and husband. He has a beautiful family. Make some noise for Jack, man. He outside. All right. And to my right, also, your left. I'm not really good with that. I'm sorry. We got JK47, y'all, aka, well, no, aka JK47. Her name was Jackie. She's a Vancouverite coming from LA, Los Angeles, is recognized as an international competitor, performer, and workshop facilitator, culminating her victories across North America and executing on the grandest of stages. From IBE, We Be Girls, Holland, Battle of the Year, UK Championships, and she was the OG USA Red Bull BC1 B-Girl Finals champ. Make some noise for JK47. We have Eric Tran, aka E-Transfer. Oh man, get that money. Okay, well, it says his name's Transitions, my bad. He's been dancing for over 10 years. He started his journey in high school where a group of break dancers inspired him to pursue this unique journey. Now, he be teaching the youth. He has a sick podcast. He be posting mad head spin combos and halos on Instagram. Yo, Eric Transfer, he's sick, man. Make some noise for E-Transfer. And last but certainly not least, we have Tiffany Luong, aka Tiff 2000. Make some noise for Tiff 2000. She is a world-class, not local, the whole galaxy. She's a world-class athlete and AI professional, right? Holding first place at the Canadian Nationals, fourth place at both Pan Am Championships and the Pan Am Games, and ranking 5th at the World Games. Make some noise for Tiff, man. She's outside. Right, yeah. And Bob. AKA Boom Jester. He's an influential figurine with the Wait. I mean, he has influential figurines at home too. He has a lot of toys. He's been breaking since '94. Damn. That's before Illmatic. That's crazy. He continues to. He's been around for a minute. Dangerous Goods, Maximum Efficiency, Mr. Winnipeg. Make some noise. Yeah, I'm scared to sit there, man.
You'll be fine, you'll be fine.
All right. Okay. I don't want that sound happening. All right. Yeah, so we're gonna Okay, so we had questions. We had a bunch of questions, but we decided to turn them into little sections, 9 sections. All right. So the first one we're going to start with is the love of breaking. The love of breaking. I love breaking. We all love breaking. I feel like that's why we're here. So we want to get this panelists to explain to you all and to you all the viewers at home, why do you do this? Because it hurts and there's no money in it. Right? So right? Let's start with Tiff 2000, aka Deep Fried Tiff.
Don't come to the whole room.
Why do you do this?
It's a good question. I think like a recent memory or feeling that I had was I tried to go for the Olympics and I made it to the final qualification, but I had vertigo and other things that it didn't work out. And I remember, like, I went back to the hotel room and I was like depressed, obviously, and was like, yo, this is such a useless skill. Why did I break? Like, why should I just focus on something else? And I just shut breaking out of my head for like a whole week. And then I just woke up 1 week later and I'm like, I'm so bored. Like, I wake up, it's like, when I wake up, I think like 6 steps, I think of like breaking, like, that's like my passion. It's what keeps me like going. And it's like I have my job and that's mental stimulation, but breaking is truly like mind, body, soul. And it's like a form of play for me. So it's like, and the community as well. So it's like even if I like lose and even if bad things happen, like it's still like a passion. It's like brings me joy, and it's like I feel like the one thing that's truly yours because it's like my breaking. Yes.
What's up, everyone? I hope you guys are enjoying the moment right now. We're all breakers. We're gonna talk about why we love it. So why do I love it? Well, when I was a kid, when I was growing up, I remember specifically I was good at soccer, badminton. I was alright at basketball, but once I went to high school, that's when the height, the strength, all kids are different. But for breaking, like this is the one thing that I did that I felt like I did my best at, and like there's so many different ways to be successful at it. Because unlike most sports or other hobbies, breaking challenges you in 3 different ways. It challenges you physically, mentally, and creatively. So like I feel like there's many ways to be good at this dance, and the best thing is you're not gonna look like most people, unless of course you like copy people and like. But like the fun thing about breaking is it's meant for a lot of different people, right? You can either be an athlete, which is why like the Olympics happen. You can be an artist and like show your work. You know, like post on Instagram, show people your art. And of course, it's a dance as well. So you can always have fun with it. If you're by yourself or you're at a party, you know, you can just groove, top rock, and all that stuff. So that's why I like breaking, because there's many different ways to like it.
Why do you still do this? It's been a minute.
Check 1, 2. Check.
30th anniversary.
Check 1, 2. Yes, this month marks my 30th year in breaking. So back to my journey. I got into breaking. I wasn't good at school for the most part. I really sucked at grades. I just wanted to hang out with my friends. In the Filipino community in Winnipeg, it's a huge breaking scene back in the day. So all we wanted to do was break. It wasn't necessarily understanding hip-hop culture or anything. It was just something to do with your friends. What I've learned in the past 30 years, it's really dope to kind of see the scene grow. And as I was part of the scene, traveling from east to west, I really want to contribute, help build, really understand the styles, like as a big on just understanding the Canadian scene. So I did a lot more traveling within Canada as opposed to like going to another country. But for the most part, I think breaking to me now is just such an amazing community. I know what it means and what the art form can do to you. Any type of passion and creating identity really goes a long way. Transferred skills from discipline and hard work into getting an education, and continuing to work in the backgrounds today to just really pay it forward and help the other generations. So that's why I do it, and I just love the feeling of just dancing on the floor and just getting lost in the music. If you don't know what it is, to people who do know what it is, you know what it is, man. It's such a sick feeling.
Oh yeah.
breaking is and forever will be my first love. I grew up with hip hop heads. My older siblings were breakers, and I grew up watching Battle of the Year on VHS and seeing all of those music videos with a little bit snippet of breaking, and It's Like That by Run DMC will always be in my head over and over again, because growing up as a mini athlete, I love being super competitive and challenging myself, and breaking was for me. I felt like it was a pocket that I completely fit into, and it just makes me think of my siblings, it makes me think of family, because this was something that we were all in it together. And the one thing I'll just share real quick, I remember my brother when I was a kid, he would always be like, not always, but he would be like, JK, what are the elements of hip hop? And what's breaking to you? And I'm like, oh, you're not 8 years old. So we went mad deep at that time.
Yeah, breaking is the dance of hip hop. And I grew up with hip hop, and I understood that. Yeah, I started breaking in '94 too.
Hey!
But, I turned 43 this week, and but yeah, breaking has that ability to tap into your way to transition transferable skills. Understand that me growing up as an athlete, as a breaker, and as a student and aspiring engineer, I always loved the opportunity to label myself as a b-boy no matter what. So I'm a b-boy engineer, and whatever you do, you always want to tag that to it. It's all about being a hybrid hip-hop professional, and I love understanding that we can be our own unique person in any field you're in. So that's why I love hip-hop, and that's why I love being b-boy, breaking.
That's what's up. Fun fact. 60% of this panel is Filipino. 100% Asian. All right. Cultural shift from one-on-one from crew to one-on-one. Fun facts. All right. So, yeah, whenever I started, the crew was a big part of the whole community. There was a lot more crew battles. People represented their crew and their crew styles. But like the research showed, we are now shifting into one-on-one. So before we all used to be broke together, now it's just one of us. So, Tiff, what do you think about that? Well, did you come up with a crew? Like, I remember you kind of came out of nowhere.
So I started breaking when I went to Queen's University, and I was doing like just those urban choreography classes during first year, but it was whatever. And then this B-girl came in and she started doing footwork, and I fell in love because I was like, I've never seen that before. And so that club, Kinetic Club, was my first like crew. But actually I would say my main crew is like Konatsu and Serena and Kuru crew. And I feel like the importance of crew is like, there's so many times where I wanted to quit, like just because like maybe you feel stagnant or like you feel pulled in different directions. But then my crew wouldn't let me. They'd be like, nah, like you can't quit, like we have to keep training. And then also like every time I look at Konatsu, it's like she works so hard and she's like on another level, especially with her ground power. So it's like that friendly rivalry where it's like, damn, like I can't even relax if I wanted to, because then I'm gonna be like way far behind. So I feel like crew is really important to push you guys, like for friendly rivalry, but also to like have that motivation. But I agree that I feel like, because I was on the Olympic circuit for so long, it was straight up just one-on-ones and only B-girls, like not against B-boys. So it's like, yeah. Oh, was that the question?
We're talking about the shift, so you know that.
Yeah, so to add with that, yeah, I believe like breaking as a crew, because I started with a group of friends as well, right? So then I feel like that's one of the best ways to enjoy breaking with other people, because like when you learn moves, you learn them together. Let's say you battle a jam with each other. You gotta either win together or lose together, and obviously talk about stuff right after the jam. So I feel like that's an important part of breaking and like building the scene, because like you want to build the scene with other people, because building it by yourself is really difficult, right? So in terms of like the shift from crew battles to one-on-one, like I understand like that's the natural progression of a lot of things, right? Because in a crew, like not everyone's gonna have the same goals or same dedication to be the best. So that's why it usually leads to like one person or two person taking their way to like make their own path. And obviously sometimes that creates another thing called a super team. So you have a bunch of individuals from different crews that want to join a team together for that. But I feel like it's like a natural progression. Of course, I think having a crew culture is more important than focusing on the individual, just simply because like I think having more people in the scene is better than having like really just good one or two people in the scene. Just like in terms of like growth of the scene as well. Because at the end of the day, it's a dance. It's like a fun thing to do, and at the end of the day, you want to have fun with it, not just be too focused on like being the best or winning also. But I haven't won a jam, so what do I know?
Good answer.
Well, can you repeat the question?
Well, it's just, what are your thoughts on the cultural shift from the crew to the individual?
Crew is an amazing thing. Growing up with your friends, having the like-mindedness of your battle mentality, your approach to the dance, it's really strong as a unit, and you grow together, you do things together, you travel together, you battle together, you win and lose. So many amazing aspects of being part of a crew. It's something that is, if you look in hip hop, like back in the day, there's a lot of crews, rap crews and graph crews. So it's all about repping who you are and what you do. Like with myself and DGC, we repped Winnipeg wherever we went. We know we're the small dogs in the big cities, so we tried our best to just do us and not care and just do our thing and just build with other people. So. There you go. Transitioning into the 1v1, over the years, as competitions became more sponsored, more funded, and creating the concepts. The first earlier years, like freestyle session, they had great crew battles. A lot of the energy of their people's crews is to be like, hey, let's invest. Let's get on a plane or a bus or long drive, 13 hours to get to another city and just battle as a crew. So that was the kind of energy of back in the 2000s-ish when you and your crew wanted to like travel and battle together. As we move into the era of like the 1v1s, like the BC one made the 1 versus 1 very popular, and some people see it as one of the pinnacles of like of just like reaching the mountaintop is the BC one and winning that. So when your mind transitions into like, I'm going to compete at freestyle session as a crew to be, I want to be the best in BC1, the way you train, the way you approach your dance really changes too as well. And in the past 10, 15 years, it really has gravitated towards what can I do to get to that moment. You'll still be part of a crew, but really what a lot of the competitions that are created is 1 versus 1, which kind of separates the crews. Not to say there's a lot of crews out there that still repping as a crew. That's why we try and throw crew jams as much as we can, just to kind of bring that vibe. It makes people train, do routines, do all the fun things that we all remember, you know what I'm saying? And then it makes you feel like a family. So there's not knocking the 1v1 approach, but really understanding that having a unit and a family unit to train and be on the same page with is super important as well. So always trying to find new ways to bring another aspect to and contrast what's popular to what could be used and utilized and needed in the scene. So it's all good, but I think we can do more, and I think it's our job as some of the older cats to really help people understand this crew dynamic. It's really dope when you have a dope crew, and whoever is in crew right now, you know what's up.
Oh yeah.
Can I just add something from the research? Sorry about that. Because there's an interesting piece, there's a structural piece around it, right? It's not just, am I going to go individually or am I going to go with a crew? But if the battles that are available, that are engaging, that are the ways that you can sustain yourself as a breaker are all 1v1, then you're sort of pressed into that space. And so there's a bit of a structural responsibility around creating the opportunities for crew-based approaches. And we're talking about breaking, so breaking crews, but when I think of crews, I think of hip-hop crews where you would actually have people who are engaged in all of the elements. Like, you're not a holistic crew if you don't have all the elements represented. And again, I'm 5, not 4, but whatever.
Crew culture is everything. I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for the crews that I've been involved with. Shout out to Flying Antics, an all-female B-Girl crew from Vancouver. My mentor, my big sister, is actually here in Vertebrat. Taught me everything, my foundations. And so I literally, even from being a teeny bopper with the small, teenage crews that you have to really being part of established crews, really shaped me. Especially Flying Antics, they were all older than me. So they really taught me how to be professional. They taught me how to carry myself. They taught me how to be punctual. They taught me how to communicate, and they taught me my solid foundations to even be a woman in the scene. And now being with Supreme Beings crew, being with Diamonds in the Rough, crew is everything. And it is on us to, create these events that does advocate for more crew battles. But for me, it's just, everyone here, we know what it is to be part of a family. It just changes everything. It gives you a lot of hope, encouragement, and the whole crew rivalry of like, damn, okay, bet, I wanna beat you on that too, And regardless if you have other friends who are not in your crew, for me, they're crew too, because you guys are together, right? You're training together, you're in fellowship together, you're in community together. So crew culture is everything. So for us, if we're able to push more and formulate these events that push for a 5-on-5, even a 3-on-3, it's a good thing. But also one-on-ones, there's nothing wrong with that as well. It's just it's different.
So I'm from Unveil Ethics crew. They're my family. My brother's here.
Yeah.
Flex is here.
Flex 50.
And but yeah, growing up in high school, I had a crew, Fifth Element, but that's because it was the combination.
Oh, so there are 5 elements.
Well, for us, the fifth element was the combination of all four.
Ah, okay.
All 4 elements. That was the fifth element, and so Unreal Ethics is part of is a breaking portion of Fifth Element. B-boys, DJs, writers, and MCs, and just to go on the whole transition between crew-based to one-on-one, it's simply economical, right?
Yep.
Splitting $5,000 with 20 guys and girls is different from taking $5,000 yourself, right? So, and it was basically the whole basis on why we created the UBL, as well, and started to focus on the one-on-one because we want to create an opportunity for dancers and breakers to have a career and provide for breakers on that level. And again, splitting $5,000 in 20 to 25 people doesn't really do much, but it can do a lot for you if you get to that next level. If you take that whole prize money, right? Or if you're billed as a feature, as a headliner, and you get paid just to break and be a headliner on a world stage, just like what you do in the UFC and Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, and whatever, right? So you can get to that level. So that's kind of where it went. It went to the entertainment side. It went to the whole production side, and it went to the whole crew base to the one-on-one. Is simply an economical choice, and it's like something that a lot of us thought about in terms of how do we get to the point where we're developing professional breakers and creating longer careers for breakers. So that's my take on that. Yeah.
Absolutely, flying on 5 young people.
Yeah.
This costs a lot of money, there's a lot of risk, so you can get the one person that always kills it and always shows up on time, so. It'll be like that, But we're gonna have Japshi transition into mental health, well-being, and healing.
Alright.
Oh yeah. Spicy mic.
Hello.
There we go.
Alright, hi. Alright, so over the course of the research project, certainly in the more community, we hear a lot reflected around the mental health and well-being impacts, the way that people use it to process trauma. And I've heard a little bit actually already on this panel, and I don't want to pick on people who have already mentioned it, so I'm actually going to suggest that we reverse the order. And I want to ask you about experiences that you've had where your relationship with breaking has helped to carry you through, where it's been that thread of continuity. We'll start with Jeff.
Okay. For breaking, it's, well, I'm stubborn, right? So it's like, I just keep pushing through with breaking. So there's a point at which you're training, there's a point at which you're performing, there's a point at which you're trying to execute something and you don't necessarily get there, but you really